Thank you, Madam Speaker. I thank the Honourable Wuniwalu for his question. In the aftermath of any event of this nature, whether it's a cyclone or a flood, there always is a grave concern on communicable diseases and the impact that it has. The approach that has been taken in the ministry in the aftermath of Winston is the same sort of thing that would apply also to the floods that followed after that. And the first step is always to get a group to sit and to try to assess what the risks are for the different kind of diseases that might occur in the aftermath of a event like a cyclone or a flood. And as a result of that, they look at all the diseases that are likely to happen, the potential morbidity and mortality arising out of all of these things that are happening in the aftermath of the event. They take into consideration the fact that when you have an event of this nature, populations are moving around. As people converge into evacuation centers, there's a devastation on infrastructure, there's a lack of sanitation and water, there's poor waste management, there's people don't have enough nutrition because of the shortage of food, and there's people have difficulties in accessing health facilities. So taking all of this into account, there's a realization in order to address the risk of communicable diseases, you cannot just approach it from within the realms of the Ministry of Health on its own. You have to have an approach that covers a wide range of government agencies. So as a result, we pulled together all of these government agencies so we can have a collaborative approach incorporating the input of all different government agencies. So it's not just the Ministry of Health alone. That is the first thing that is always done. The risk assessment and identifying how we can address the risks from across different agencies. The second step then is to look at all the likely diseases that might take place and prioritize these diseases in terms of the ones that we have to address in the immediate short term, those that have to be addressed in the medium term, and those that have to be addressed in the long term. Doing this allows you to focus your resources and your people into the areas in which you will have the highest likely impact. And when you look at the major causes of communicable diseases that occur in the aftermath of an event like this, you have 4 different categories. The first category, which is always the immediate priority, is the infections due to wounds and injuries. In a cyclone, people get wounded because of flying debris, or in the floods, they might step on things that hurt their legs or hurt their bodies. So that will always be the immediate priority that the health facilities will have to deal with. Secondly, the second type of diseases will be waterborne diseases, whether you have a cyclone or whether you have a flood. Things like diarrhea, leptospirosis, all of these kinds of events. And these are also short-term priorities that the ministry has to gear up together with its partners to address. The third type of areas in which we have diseases that we have to focus on is the diseases associated with crowding. In the aftermath of an event like this, people move to evacuation centers. And when you have a large number of people in a small area, there are all kinds of diseases that can emanate out of this. Acute respiratory infections such as flu, pneumonia, things like measles, meningitis, typhoid becomes an immediate priority. And the fourth area that we're always worried about in the aftermath of an event is vector-borne disease, things that are borne about by mosquitoes or rodents, things like dengue, chikungunya, Zika, Ross River virus transmission. So those are short and medium-term priorities. So the first approach is to identify what the risks are, what the different agencies that we need to call in to address these risks, and then begin to provide the service. And obviously, in a large event of this nature, you need to have very good governance and coordination. Governance and coordination of all the bodies that are involved. Within the Ministry of Health, there is a public health intervention subcluster of the health and nutrition cluster. So we have a health and nutrition cluster that brings in all the agencies that are associated with health. But under that cluster, we have a subcluster that looks only at the public health components. So it is this unit that begins to look, that coordinates all the activities that are undertaken. And as part of the coordination, they do the 4 basic things. First, very important is the issue of surveillance, making sure that you have ways of identifying where there will be likely outbreaks of disease. In this cyclone, we've had the development of an early warning and response system. This is where we set up in 34 government health facilities all around the country, where we try to keep track of the events of the likely disease that will take place. Information on this is passed on to mobile, is downloaded onto a mobile app. This information is then sent to the center. This allows us to keep a tab on what are the likely diseases that will take place. Together with that, the early warning and response system is a normal lab-based surveillance system that collects data from all the health facilities around the country. After you have the surveillance, you need to have the ability to be able to deal with what you learn, the clinical management of the cases that we have. And in this, we need to make sure that we have infrastructure. We need to make sure that the facilities are up and running as quickly as possible. In some of our facilities, the whole clinic was destroyed, but we needed to make sure that the service could still continue to be provided. Maybe from a tent, maybe from the quarters of the nurse, but the service needs to be provided from the infrastructure. Secondly, we need to make sure that we have the technical capacities and competencies of staff to be able to deliver service. And in this area, we're very fortunate that in this event, we're able to call upon the assistance of our friends from Australia, New Zealand, other areas like the Ramakrishna and the VCC Sai, all of these people, the FNU, that also provide their staff in addition to the Ministry of Health to be able to provide assistance to all the people out there. The third area where there's a focus on is prevention and control. And in this prevention and control, we've had a lot of activities on WASH, water, sanitation and hygiene. As I mentioned in my ministerial statement, we distributed about 60,000 WASH kits to try to make sure that people are having access to good water and so forth. There was a lot of activity on vector-borne disease control, such as mosquito-borne diseases like Zika and chikungunya and dengue. And although at the end of the day, if all of these preventive measures don't work, we can also resort to vaccines, which is something that is taking place for the typhoid in Tai-Levo North. And the fourth area in which there's a lot of focus in the aftermath of a cyclone is making sure that we're providing information to the public, risk information, dissemination of information on disease risks and its prevention and control internally within the ministry and the government and also externally to the general public. And these messages continue today. These are the general sorts of areas in which the general approach that has been taken in order to address the communicable diseases. I have the data that has been provided from the ministry so far, and in the period from post-Winston, 20th February to around 22nd of April, we've had about 60 cases of typhoid, about 138 cases of leptospirosis, 150 of dengue, measles around 2, chikungunya 2, and Zika around 13. So we always have a fear of massive outbreaks. I think the biggest outbreak that we've had is conjunctivitis, when there had been a localized typhoid outbreak, so it has not been as bad as we feared, and that I think bears testimony to some of the efforts that have been put in. At the moment, there is still a continued focus on communicable disease prevention and control. We still have a lot of focus on the typhoid outbreaks that have taken place in Tai-Levo North. We've introduced a vaccination program now, and together with taking blood samples so we can make sure that when you do the vaccination, it's targeted towards the people that, on which it will have a likely highest possible effective impact. The third thing that is being undertaken now is a national cleanup campaign to prevent diseases borne by mosquitoes, especially the Zika virus, dengue and chikungunya. This cleanup will be taking place from Saturday this week and on 3 consecutive Saturdays. After that, to keep the mosquito density to a minimum, and this is something that we appeal to everybody into this country. Destroy mosquito breeding grounds. We need to be able to do that. We need to do that collectively, not just from government, working together in partnership with local government, but the whole community as a whole needs to get behind this. From last week, we have commenced the implementation of our national response plan to the Zika virus. We will continue to enhance and intensify our response to the leptospirosis situation, and we'll continue to look and work with our partners for the funding of communicable disease prevention. And I think one of the things that I must mention here is the appreciation that we have to all the partners that have come to provide us assistance in this attempt to deal with communicable diseases. We have had for instance, we have support from two Cuban epidemiologists who are still now based with the Fiji Center of Communicable Disease Control in Mateka House. We've had the 4 epidemiologists from the World Health Organization based within the ministry, the center, and also out in the division. We've had communication specialists from the World Health Organization specializing in risk communication, assisting our communications office to be able to provide the right kind of messages to the public. We have had the WASH Cluster Support Officer from UNICEF helping us out, and we've had logistics support officer assisting also the Fiji Pharmaceutical and Biomedical Services, and the other one helping out with the post-disaster needs assessment. And we've also had the laboratory support from the SPC. Technical meetings continue within our divisional response teams, emergency teams, and with all of our key program partners. And I also must express my appreciation to all the staff of the Ministry of Health and others that came together to visit people, to talk to people, to spend time, to try to make sure that we don't have a massive outbreak of communicable disease. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Supplementary question, the Honourable Kiliraki.
Supplementary question. I thank the Honourable Minister for the comprehensive response to the question. I wish to ask a question whether he can explain as to how they have put a long-term plan in regards to non-communicable diseases. And this will be associated with food distribution, the malnutrition that are reported, and the in regards to these people may be affected because of the food they eat to cancers and all the non-communicable diseases, hypertension, and all those issues, or whether they have a long-term plan in regards to the non-communicable diseases. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I thank the Honourable Kiliraki for his question. The original question about communicable diseases, this is about non-communicable diseases, but I don't have the full details, but I can assure the members of this House and the public that there is a strong focus on non-communicable diseases. In my ministerial statement earlier this week, I mentioned the fact that in visiting the island of Koro, in the children that we surveyed, we found that about 44% of them were malnourished at that time. But through the interventions that have taken place, through the feeding and the adding of micronutrient supplements to the children, and also through the efforts of the NDMO in trying to broaden the kind of food that is made available to try to ensure that we can provide planting of kumala and planting of seedlings, we hope to be able to enhance the kind of food that they have so that they can address these sorts of issues. In the bigger picture, the government also has a national NCD strategic plan, which we are implementing and which we hope to work with a lot of partner agencies, not only to communicate, to inform the public about the things that they need to do in order to minimize NCDs, but at the same time also try to create an environment in which it is easier for people to make the right choices about what they should do or should not do. And I can assure the public that NCDs continues to be a major focus of the ministry because, as we know, 80% of all premature deaths is because of NCDs.
Thank you. Supplementary question, Honourable Vande.
Supplementary question, Madam Speaker. Can I ask the Minister how will he fund this program from this 2016 budget? Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Obviously, in the aftermath of a cyclone like this, we lay out our plans, but we have to pull funds to pay for the things that we've already had to do. And plans obviously change and evolve. As a result of this, we are re-looking at our own funding, what we can fund from within. We have the assistance of our development partners, and through collaboration and through discussion, we'll need to try to find the best mix of using the funds that are available to the ministry, but also working with our development partners to source the funds that they can have to assist us in order to meet the requirements of trying to keep our population as healthy as possible.